Welcome back to Titans Time. I'm Tanner Staggs, and I'm here, joined as always by my brother, Tyler Staggs. We did a podcast earlier today discussing the season opener for the Titans versus the Broncos with Tic Tac Titans, also known as Tyler Rowland. He's the host of the Locked On Titans podcast, so be sure to go and check that out and check out his podcast for sure because he does a really good job. I listen to it all the time, and I think it's great. But in this video, rather than the season opener, we're going to be discussing the game predictions for weeks 2 through 17. So we're going to cover the rest of the season, but be sure to go and check out that podcast so that you don't miss anything. Let's start it off, Tyler. Your thoughts, week 2, the Jaguars at the Titans. Go ahead and give your thoughts on that game.
All right, so last year the Titans and Jaguars, split. Both of them won one game. The Jaguars won the game on Thursday Night Football. But when it comes down to it this year, I don't see that being the case. I think that the Titans own, the series with them this year. I think the Titans get both wins. For the first game in Nashville, I had the Titans winning this game 31-14. The Jaguars, yes, they do still have Leonard Fournette, and they added Tyler Eifert in the offseason. I believe they signed him to a 2-year deal. But Tyler Eifert's one of those players where when he's on the field, he can, really produce for a team.
He's an impact player when he's on the field. He
is an impact player, but he is also very injury prone. And I just don't see him having, if he can stay healthy for the Jaguars, then yes, he might be able to make that impact, but I don't think he will be able to stay healthy. And, Fournette really, I don't believe, wants to be in Jacksonville anymore. Can't say that I blame him. And the Jaguars did add some good pieces in the draft. They drafted C.J. Henderson, Caleb Chasen, Laviska Shenault Jr., and Devin Hamilton. And there's no doubt in my mind that these guys will be very good players in the NFL. But as far as week 2 in their very first season against the Titans' veteran offense that really only lost one guy, and that was
Jack Conklin.
Right
tackle.
I just don't see them being able to fare well against the Titans. And like I said, that's why I have the Titans winning this game 31-14, not to mention it's the home opener. So I think the Titans are going to be coming in with just so much more energy.
Yeah, I think that you're exactly right. Do think the Titans will sweep the Jaguars next season. My score prediction for week 1 is actually going to be 42-14.
Man, you haven't put up some
by
points.
A much bigger margin. Yes, the Jaguars did add some pretty good rookies in the draft. Other than that, they've honestly gotten progressively worse throughout the offseason. One thing that hasn't been mentioned, Yannick Ngakoue and his kind of back and forth with, I think it was the Jaguars GM or owner, someone on Twitter. They had a little back and forth, and it just didn't look good for the team. I don't think that they really have anything to play for next season other than, drafting someone like Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields. Their rookies are good, yes. C.J. Henderson, though, has some issues tackling running backs sometimes, especially bigger ones. So that could pose a problem against Derrick Henry. I really just think that the Titans are going to easily win both of these games. Week 3. This is an interesting matchup. Titans in Minnesota at the Vikings. I'm going to take this one first. Probably the biggest offseason addition for the Minnesota Vikings was Michael Pierce. He's a big run-stopping defensive tackle right there in the middle of the defensive line. He's a force against the run, which could pose some problems for Derrick Henry. Obviously, they lost Stephon Diggs. Traded him to the Buffalo Bills, replaced him with Justin Jefferson in the draft, and they also signed former Titans wide receiver Tajay Sharp. Other players that they drafted, Justin Jefferson, like I said just a second ago. Jeff Gladney, who I wanted the Titans to take up until they got Christian Fulton in the second round. That was a great pick. And I think that it worked out better than taking Gladney in the first. So Jeff Gladney, Ezra Cleveland, who is a pretty good offensive lineman, and Cam Dantzler, who somehow, from the combine to his pro day, improved his 40 time by like 0.3 of a second. Kind of seems a little sketchy to me, but you know, whatever. They were doing the virtual pro days, so you know, they did add a lot of talent to their defense, but I just don't think it's quite enough to replenish all of the talent that they've lost on defense. Obviously, you know, losing Xavier Rhodes, and not sure that I don't think they've made any move to try to sign back Everson Griffin. I'm taking the Titans in this one, 35-32.
This is one where, unfortunately, I have to disagree with you. I think that the Vikings will end up winning on a last-second field goal. I have them beating the Titans 27-24. Like you mentioned, I don't believe that the Vikings have signed back Everson Griffin yet.
They haven't. I'm not sure if they've made any effort to
right.
or not.
And you know, really, I haven't heard much talk about him in free agency. But you know, he went to the Pro Bowl last year for them, and like you said, they've added some really good pieces in like Jeff Gladney and Justin Jefferson from LSU. You know, I feel like Justin Jefferson was a really good pick for them because he does not have to come in and be that number one receiver. There's no pressure on him to do that because they still have Thielen. And
who's a great receiver.
He is. I mean, the guy, you know, always seems to catch, you know, so many passes a year. And, like, I mean, even when they still had Diggs, you know, he was catching more passes than Diggs throughout the season.
He was.
And I feel like this is just going to be a, you know, very tough game, a hard-fought game, and that just since it's up in Minnesota, the Vikings are going to come away with the win on the last-second field goal.
Yeah, you know, I have a little bit more faith in our boys, the Tennessee Titans, than you do.
If you really want to see his faith for the Titans, be sure to check out the podcast on Apple Podcasts.
I do have the Titans, unfortunately, losing the season opener to the Denver Broncos. I mean, yes, there's a chance for them to go 16-0, but they've got to lose a game at some point. You know, I mean, I do have them losing to the Broncos in the season opener, but that's only better for them going through the rest of the season, considering they play better as underdogs. And yes, they're underdogs going into week 1, but that's just going to put so much more on their shoulders if they lose to the Broncos coming in week 1. And just gives them that much more to prove people wrong about. So,
I guess we'll see.
Once again, I disagree with you on the Vikings. Week 4, Steelers at Titans. Go ahead and give your thoughts on the Steelers.
All right, so we both know that anytime the Titans and Steelers play, man, it is a like gritty game, hard-fought game. And we know that unless something happens in the first couple of weeks, Big Ben is going to be back, you know, under center for the Steelers this year. And I mean, let's face it, the Steelers play, you know, probably in maybe not the last couple of years, but over time, one of the grittiest divisions in the AFC North. You know, you think back to the old Steelers and Ravens teams and even a couple of the Bengals teams that were thrown in there as far as defensive-wise.
Yeah.
And they do still have Juju, and I believe they
Juju Smith-Schuster.
I believe they put Bud Dupree, put the franchise tag on him, correct?
They did.
While the Titans will have to watch out for Dupree coming off the edge, you know, and making sure that they keep Tannehill on his feet, I think that since this game is in Nashville, the Titans are going to fight hard against the Steelers, and I have them coming away with the win 28-21.
Okay. I actually have the Titans also coming away with the win at 21-13. I think that one of the biggest questions for the Steelers next season is going to be Ben Roethlisberger. Can he stay healthy? Can he be the quarterback that he once was? To me, that's just a big question mark going into next season. He is really getting up there in age, and he has had some bumps and bruises along the way. So can Ben Roethlisberger be the quarterback that he has been in the past?
Judging by his off-season workout routine, I think it might be up in the air on if he's going to be able to stay.
He gets a lot of curls in.
Yeah, he does get a lot of curls in.
One thing that I don't have a question about the Steelers is their defense. They're going to have one of the best defenses in the league. No doubt about that. They have some very talented players on that defense. But, I mean, honestly, to me, I just don't think their offense is going to be powerful enough to beat the Titans. So, therefore, 21-13. Next, Week 5, Bills at Titans. Obviously, it's going to be fun to relive the Music City Miracle. That's always a fun thing when the Titans play the Bills, because Bills fans are always not very happy about that. By the way, it was not a forward pass.
It was a lateral.
It was a backwards lateral. It's another Week 5 Bills versus Titans game. They played last year in Week 5, in which the Bills got the better of the Titans, which unfortunately I do think that they will do that again. Last year the Titans struggled to move the ball against the Bills, which of course Marcus Mariota was in at quarterback. But now the Bills have Stephon Diggs to add to their offense, and they've added A.J. Epinesa, they've added Mario Addison to their defense. So I think that it's still going to be hard for the Titans to move the ball against them just a bit. And adding Stephon Diggs, you have some talent for Josh Allen to throw the ball to. I think it's going to be a loss for the Titans, 10-17 versus the Bills.
As bad as I hate to say it, because I so want the Titans to beat up on the Bills and just own them this year, I have to agree with you on this. The Bills over the past couple years have had the Titans number, and I feel like, unfortunately, even though
I feel that it would be different if they met later in the season.
Yeah, I agree. While this year we do have Ryan Tannehill under center, I still have the Bills just barely squeaking by the Titans. I have them winning this game 16-14. So, like I said, as bad as I hate to do that, and as much as it hurt me to do that, this, out of all of the games, may have been the hardest one for me to decide if I thought the Titans were going to win it or not. Just because of looking at the past couple of years and seeing about how the Bills have had our number.
Yeah. I think it's definitely fair to assume either way on this one. This game could easily go either way. So it's going to be one of those that's going to be really fun to watch, and I think it'll be a very hyped up game by the time that both teams get to that point in the season. Week 6, Texans at Titans. Another one, the Texans and Titans split last season. The Titans split with all of the teams in the AFC South. But one thing that has changed since then is that Bill O'Brien has probably been the worst GM in football.
I think he's lost his mind.
I don't know. I'm not sure what's going on. He traded DeAndre Hopkins for a sack of marbles.
Which, by the way, I am completely fine with. Being the same division.
Yeah.
Yes, get rid of D-Hop. Make it to where we don't have to go up against him
D-Hop
twice a year.
They don't have DJ Reader now either. Bill O'Brien has been doing some very questionable things. I think that the Titans are going to sweep the Texans 24-20 in this first game at home.
I mean, they did add Brandon Cooks and
that makes
David
up for
Johnson.
That makes up for it.
Yeah, man.
I don't get it. I think that he's made a lot of bad moves as a GM, and I don't agree with it.
To me, the moves that they've made, the guys that they brought in, they've had a couple of good seasons. It's not like they have just come out and continuously put up huge numbers. I mean, you think about it, Hopkins was
the best wide receiver in the league, in my opinion.
I can see that. A lot of people can make that argument, and he can make that argument for sure. But you go from Deshaun Watson having that reliable target in Hopkins to now you're going to pair him with Brandon Cooks and David Johnson, and I don't see that being enough. But this being a game in Nashville, I think the home crowd energy, the Titans are just going to feed off of that, and I have the Titans beating the Texans in Week 6, 24-14.
24-14.
And of course, Week 7, as of right now, is the Titans' bye week.
Yes, I don't know how I feel about that. I actually wish it was a little bit later in the season.
It would be nice. I would like to have it. There's a couple tougher games coming up that I would like to have the bye week before. But it is what it is. So now we jump to Week 8, where we are going to get to see the number 1 overall draft pick, Joe Burrow, and the Cincinnati Bengals host the Titans in Cincinnati. Let me know what you have on this one.
Honestly, I don't have much. Yeah, they drafted Joe Burrow, but last year they had the worst record in football. They have overhauled their secondary, and with the way this offseason is, I don't know that they're really going to have enough time together to mesh. I think the Titans win 24-17.
Yeah, I didn't have much on this one either. Like you said, they're the worst team in the league last year. Yes, they added Joe Burrow, but is that really going to be enough to put them over the top?
I don't think so.
I think they're still going to be a just below average team.
Yeah.
I think they win more games than they did last year, but
hopefully,
I just don't see them doing too much. I do have the Titans winning this game 21-14.
21-14. We got 24-17. So, next Week 9 versus the Bears. The Bears added Nick Foles. I don't really know what that means. As far as between him and Mitch Trubisky, they didn't pick up Trubisky's fifth-year option, so I'm kind of leaning towards Foles. In the draft, they added Cole Kmet and cornerback Jalen Johnson. Cole Kmet is a tight end. Honestly, they didn't do much this offseason. I'm not that impressed about it. And I think the Titans win 28-17.
From what I was saying, they also added Robert Quinn to their defensive line. Quinn had 11.5 sacks last season. So you think about this, adding him to that D-line with Khalil Mack and Akeem Hicks. I mean, that does come out to be a pretty scary pass rush that the Titans have to go up against. But even with that really good pass rush, I have the Titans winning this game 17-10. One of my lower scoring games for them, but I believe that will be because of that pass rush that the Bears have.
So I believe at this point we both have the Titans records at 6-2.
I
know that I do.
I think at this point, yes, I have them at 6-2.
So we both have the Titans records at 6-2 at this point in the season, going in to face the Colts in Nashville on Thursday Night Football in Week 10. Once again, another AFC South team the Titans split with last season. The Colts are going to be the Titans' test in the AFC South next season. Not saying by any means that the Colts are better than the Titans or anything like that. Also not one of the Phillip Rivers worshipers. Yes, he has been a good quarterback, but he has proven the past couple of years to have some trouble winning football games. So the Colts, they're going to have a pretty well-rounded team. They added Forrest Buckner and Xavier Rhodes. Defensively, there won't be anything to joke about. They definitely will have a pretty good defense. I've got the Titans at home, 31-20.
Right there with you. I have the Titans winning this game. I have them winning 20-17. You've mentioned about all the additions to the Colts this year that they added in the offseason. They do still have T.Y. Hilton leading their wideout group, and they drafted Michael Pittman Jr., the 6'4" wide receiver from USC. That's going to be a big target, I believe. I believe Jonathan Taylor, the running back from Wisconsin, is going to help them out too. You talked about how the Titans split with them last year as well. Mm-hmm. I do have the Titans winning at home against them, like I said. 20-17. I think that the Colts are going to put up a little bit of a fight in Nashville. And out of, the Titans' rivals in their division, I believe the Colts will be the team to give them, the biggest fit.
If there was a team in the AFC South to do it, it would be the Colts.
Right.
Week 11, the Titans at the Ravens in Baltimore. How did the last game in Baltimore go for the Titans?
I believe it went very, very well.
Pretty well.
I mean, didn't Derrick Henry run for like
195 rushing yards?
Not to mention, who knows what kind of shape Earl Thomas is going to be.
Well, he possibly could be shot multiple times, multiple gunshot wounds, and
I don't know. She may feel like more of a punishment for him will be
facing Derrick
Henry again.
So it's a rematch from the divisional round last year. The Titans absolutely embarrassed the Ravens. They showed the way to stop Lamar Jackson, which was probably the biggest storyline coming out of the game. Over the offseason, they've beefed up their defensive line, adding Calais Campbell, but also lost Michael Pierce. So it's kind of a trade-off there. One rushing defender for another. They've also added Patrick Queen, middle linebacker, which Lamar Jackson called the next Ray Lewis.
That's some pretty big shoes to fill there.
Very big shoes to fill. Honestly, I think that after the Thursday night football game and the game against the Bears, the Titans might still be a little bit banged up, and with that Sunday game and then the Thursday game being so close together. And I actually do think that they will lose the game 27-21.
As bad as I hate to say it, I also have the Ravens winning this game. I feel like if it was playoff atmosphere again, or if it was in the playoffs, no doubt I would have the Titans coming away with the win. But
well, and with the Titans coming into this game 7-2, like we both have them projected to be, they might not actually have that whole underdog thing going for them at this point.
Might lose a little bit of the chip on their shoulder. Yeah. Another thing is the Ravens did add J.K. Dobbins in the draft. Already a really, really good run game, and then they go and add Dobbins to the mix there.
Mark Ingram thinks they're going to have the best backfield in the NFL.
As far as all-around backfield, he may have an argument for that.
I think with the addition of Darrington Evans, the Titans have a pretty good argument as well.
I agree. That's why I didn't want to come out and say that I agree with Ingram, but he can make that argument. And yes, the Titans were able to contain Lamar Jackson last year in the playoffs. One big contributor to that, though, was Dean Pease. And when he retired, so now Vrabel is taking over the defense. And me and you have talked about this and kind of went back and forth about it some. While yes, he may have learned how Dean Pease stopped Lamar Jackson in the playoffs, the Ravens are going to have that film. you know for sure Lamar Jackson already has this game circled on his calendar because, the Titans ended their possible Super Bowl run.
Yeah.
And, they did expose him. So, he's going to be studying that film, and, if Vrabel could come up with another new way to contain Lamar Jackson that he's not seen yet, at that point, I think the Titans could come away with the win. But as of right now, I have the Titans losing to the Ravens in Baltimore. I believe the Ravens win this game 34-28.
I have a little bit more faith in Mike Vrabel than you do, but I do still feel like that they will lose this game to the Ravens.
Well, I'm not saying I don't have faith in it.
Anyways, Week 12, the Titans at the Colts. I think that actually this time the Colts will get the better of them. We've obviously already talked a little bit about the Colts. 24-35 loss for the Titans.
Yeah, like you said, we've already hit on our points with the Colts that we think will make them, the real contender against the Titans there. And since this game is in Indy, I have the Colts winning 24-17.
Week 13, Browns at Titans. Don't have much to say about this one either. The Browns added Austin Hooper. They had a decent draft, getting Jedrick Wills and Grant Delpit. They'll be a lot closer to the Titans this year than they were last year, because last year was just embarrassing, honestly. But I still think the Titans are going to get the win 34-28.
I don't have much to say about this game either. Last year the Browns had all the hype coming into the season. The Titans come in the season opener and just shut them down. Not really buying into the Browns right now. They did add some pieces, like you said, but I have the Titans winning this game 35-21.
Week 14, Titans at Jaguars. Don't think it's going to be any different than the first matchup. 24-9. Titans win.
Yeah, I don't see any way that it's any different than the first matchup. I have the Titans winning this game 21-17. Maybe the Jags put up a little bit more of a fight in Jacksonville, but I still don't think they get the win.
Lions at Titans. Obviously, the Lions lost Darius Slay, their number one corner. They did add Desmond Trufant, and they did draft Jeff Okudah. So their secondary actually might have gotten a little bit better, even though they did lose one of the best corners in the league. They also drafted Julian Okwara. He's going to give them some talent on the edge there. And DeAndre Swift, who can maybe finally be a featured running back for the Lions. I don't know that they've actually had one of those that has been, a workhorse running back for a while. But I still don't think it's going to matter. I think the Titans are going to win in a close one, 23-20.
Yeah, like you said, the Lions, I feel like they had a really good draft. And I think that they have, even though they did lose Darius Slay, I feel like at the corner position they did replace him with a couple of good pieces. You mentioned them drafting DeAndre Swift. He will, I believe, be the featured running back for them. But a lot of the times, as we've seen in the past, they will try and rely on just one big piece for their offense that usually causes the player to go into a early retirement, right in the middle of their prime. I just don't expect, the Lions to do too much against the Titans. I have the Titans coming away with the win, 24-14.
I think it'll be a little closer than that, but moving on to Week 16, Titans at Packers. The big storyline for the Packers this offseason, Jordan Love, they traded up to get him, possibly Rodgers' replacement. Other than that, they've gotten Devin Funchess, and they also drafted A.J. Dillon. Even though they haven't had the best of off seasons, I'd actually say that they've had one of the worst in the NFL. Because how are you going to piss off Aaron Rodgers? he's been one of the best quarterbacks in the league for how many years now? I mean, several. More than several. But it's still Aaron Rodgers. It's still Lambeau Field. Late in the season, I think the Titans are going to lose this one 35-24.
That was the biggest factor for me is it's in Lambeau in late season, so more than likely it is going to be cold up there, and just the atmosphere up there late season. They did not get Rodgers much help for his receiving core, but he did lead that team to the NFC Championship game last year. They were kind of in a similar spot the Titans were in. They both made it to their conference championship games and came up short in those games. But the biggest kicker, like I said, is this game being up in Green Bay. I have the Packers winning 21-17.
Next, Week 17. This could be one of the games that decides the AFC South division. I would say that you're probably going to come into this game with the Titans having a chance to either clinch the AFC South division or clinch home field advantage. So either way, I think that this game will mean a lot. All that I have on my notes is that you're kidding yourself if you think that the Titans are going to lose to the Texans this season. It's a win on the road, 20-14.
I can't argue with any of that. We touched on everything earlier in the earlier game against them. I just don't see the Texans beating the Titans this year, especially with the moves that Bill O'Brien's made. I have the Titans beating the Texans in Houston 31-17.
As a whole, I've got the Titans record at 11-5.
I have the Titans as 11-5 too.
Wow, what are the odds? What are the odds of that?
And we had I think there was really only one game that each of us had them losing that the other didn't.
Besides the Denver Broncos game, which, by the way, you should go check out our podcast. You can find it on whatever podcast app you use to listen to your podcast. It is the Titans Time podcast, and today we had on Tic Tac Titans, the host of the Locked On Titans podcast, to discuss the season opener versus the Broncos, and we had a great discussion on there, so you should definitely go check that out.
And, like we were talking about, we both have them going 11-5. For me, I could still see them possibly ended up 12-4, depending on that Bills game for me. I do have the Titans winning the AFC South for sure, though. I think we both had them going 5-1 in the AFC South.
Yeah.
So, with the only loss being to Indianapolis in Indy. I think it's going to be a great season for the Titans. I'm excited and ready for it to get started up.
Yeah, absolutely. One more thing. I feel like there's one more thing.
You need to make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Turn on the post.
Make sure that you
turn on the post notifications so
post
that
notifications.
Will
These
know
are
when
all down below the YouTube video. So make sure that you go and find those so that you can make that happen. And like the video because all of these things that you can do help us out a lot.
And leave a comment for us. Let us know how we're doing, anything you want to hear, anything we can improve on.
One more thing that you can do, actually a couple of more things that you can do. You can check us out on Twitter at Titans_time. Find our Instagram. We'll leave all of these links below. Instagram is Titans Time Podcast. Check out our website where we post all of our podcasts and also Titans articles daily. That's TitansTimePodcast.com. This has been Titans Time, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video.